Sons. I don't know why. There was like something that inspired me this week where I was like, let's talk about the dramatic boys in Shakespeare. Let's talk about the sons, the dramatic sons. And I don't know. I don't know what it was that made me want to talk about the dramatic sons. But something in life made me want to talk about the dramatic sons. So here we are. We're talking about the dramatic sons. And I had planned on doing Edmund and Hal. But the Edmund monologue I want to go through is from Act 1, Scene 2 of King Lear. And it's a doozy. It's a long one. So I think what we'll do is, shocker, is we'll keep doing more. So I think what we'll do is we'll do Dramatic Boys Part 1, where we'll do Edmund, and then we'll do Dramatic Boys Part 2, and we'll talk about Hal. We'll talk about Prince Hal. For context, Prince Hal is the prince in Henry IV parts 1 and 2, right? Henry IV is where there's, hold on. I can never remember if it's Henry IV has 3 parts, or Henry VI has 3 parts. Play. I think it only has 2 parts. Yeah, and then Henry VI has 3. Okay, so Prince Hal is Henry IV's son. So he's a character in Henry IV parts 1 and 2. And he eventually becomes Henry V. So if you watch The Hollow Crown, which is an incredible series by the BBC, where they decided to adapt all of Shakespeare's histories into these and they do these big long episodes of television, but they're really films. So they've adapted, I don't know if they're still working on it actually, but they decided to adapt all of the histories as this big series. And they call it The Hollow Crown. So I started with Richard II, and Ben Whishaw plays Richard II, and he delivers a hauntingly beautiful performance. However you feel about Richard II as a monarch, we can, and also when you're watching these plays, remember to suspend your disbelief a little bit, because of course, Shakespeare was writing for Queen Elizabeth, and he was writing for the people of the time. So he's gonna have bias, and of course he's gonna take artistic liberties. He's not writing an accurate historical account of what happened. And Richard II wasn't necessarily a popular monarch back then. So spoiler alert, he gets overthrown. And spoiler for your history classes too, I guess. But Ben Whishaw makes him, in moments, so sympathetic and heartbreaking. It's beautiful to behold. It's beautiful to behold. It's amazing. And then in Richard II, you see the character who will become King Henry IV, who in Henry IV is played by Jeremy Irons. But I don't know why they did this, but the actor who plays him in Bolingbroke he's Lord Bolingbroke or Duke of Bolingbroke in Richard II. I have all the information right here. I don't know why I'm relying on my unreliable memory when I have This book right here that can tell me everything. Okay, so let's just go to Richard II. All right. But Bolingbroke in Richard II is actually played by the actor who plays Tom Bombadil in the new Lord of the Rings show. And you would not be able to tell when Tom Bombadil's all made up and stuff. But I like saw him in like the little interviews that they do at the end of the show. And I was like, oh my God! He's also in, he's in a lot of stuff. He's in like the James Bond, the like Daniel Craig James Bond stuff. But he's an incredible actor who's a member of the Royal Shakespeare Company, as they all are, as most of them are, you know, all those character actors. But I can't remember his name right now, but he's incredible. He plays Bolingbroke, but anyway, he plays Bolingbroke and he looks nothing like Jeremy Irons. So just keep that in mind if you ever watch it. When you're watching Richard II, Bolingbroke becomes King Henry IV, and in the next episode, which is Henry IV Part 1, or Henry IV, yeah, Henry IV Part 1, they smashed him into two in the Hollow Crown, they smashed the two into one. Just remember, I think they did. Now I need to now I want to go look. Now I'm questioning myself. Either way, remember that Bolingbroke in Richard II is Jeremy Irons in the next episode. Even though they look nothing alike. Okay, Thomas Mowbray, Duke of Norfolk, Queen Isabel, yep, Richard's party, Bolingbroke. Henry Bolingbroke. Oh, that's just his last name, I think. Because sometimes it can be kind of confusing when he's like naming characters in these plays, because sometimes he'll name them like as their names, you know, like the named character. He'll name them the land that they're Duke of. And sometimes he'll give them their actual name. So Bolingbroke is his actual name. And I think he's Duke of Hereford. There we go. Duke of Hereford, John of Gaunt's son. John of Gaunt is the Duke of Gloucester. Afterwards, King Henry IV. Yeah. And then his son is Hal, Prince Hal, who becomes Henry V. And then Henry V is the one who like unites all of England and France and like does a great job. And then dies of dysentery. And then his son loses everything. Yikes! And then the next series of the Hollow Crown after that. So the first series of the Hollow Crown. Oh, yeah. Like that. Oh, and all of that stuff is just, that's so far down the line. This is like at least 100 years earlier. At least, if not more. Yeah, and then the next series of the Hollow Crown goes into, so it's Henry VI, and then it just braining, right? Yeah, no, I get you. Goes into Henry VI, and then into Richard III, and Richard III is played by none other than Benedict Cumberbatch. I haven't seen those ones yet. So I can't say anything about them. Because I haven't seen them. I want to, but I haven't seen them. I just love the early histories. Like, I love Richard II, and I've loved Richard II for a long time. I got to see a production of Richard II at Santa Cruz Shakespeare a couple years ago, and there was a 3-person cast, and it was amazing. It was so well done. So well done. Anyway, so there's my little tirade. If you've never been to a Selena Shakespeare stream before, just know. There's lots of little ding, 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 ding. But so there's my little thing about like Richard, and we'll get to Hal next time. Because he's a sad boy. He has no reason to be sad, but he's sad. I guess he has a little bit of reason to be sad. He's got a lot of pressure on him and blah, 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 blah. In like that classic, like, you know, man has a reason to be sad kind of way. But like, he's fine. He's gonna be fine. Edmund, however, getting to the character that we're gonna talk about today, Edmund has a little bit more reason to be bummed, shall we say. So, to give a small little preface about King Lear, is, for folks who are unfamiliar with the play, King Lear is old. He's very, very old. And he is not sure what's going to happen to his kingdom. He's just unsure. And he has 3 daughters that don't really love each other that much. Ugh. Well, one of them does. Hold on, let me get to my page. There we go. So, King Lear, King of Britain, in an attempt. Oh, and this is all fake, by the way. This is not a history. This is fictional. So it's not based off a real person. It might have been based off a real person, but like it's not. It's fictional. To avoid future strife, divides his kingdom between his 3 daughters. The 2 eldest, Regan, wife of Cornwall, and Goneril, wife of Albany, respond to his request for a show of love, but Cordelia is unable to, not wanting to be hypocritical. In a fit of rage, Lear banishes her, and she leaves to marry the King of France. When his advisor, Kent, attempts to tell Lear he is doing wrong, he too is banished. The Earl of Gloucester's bastard son, Edmund, is planning to gain his brother Edgar's lands by disinheriting him. He convinces Gloucester that Edgar is plotting against him, and then persuades his brother to flee from his father's anger. To avoid arrest, Edgar disguises himself as a mad beggar, Poor Tom. Edmund is taken into Cornwall's service. So that's kind of like the beginning of what's going on. Lear calls his 3 daughters and is like, hey, I'm on my way out. I need to make sure that the kingdom's taken care of. I'm going to split the kingdom into thirds. You're each going to take a piece. And he basically like asks them for like a show of devotion, of love or something like that. And Regan and Goneril are like, absolutely, father, yeah. And he's like, wonderful. And then Cordelia's like, I can't do it, Dad. I can't do it. And he's like, get out of here. And so she goes to France. And then, so that's the main plot. Shakespeare so often has a little side thing going on. And that's where Edmund and Edgar come in. So Edmund and Edgar are half brothers. Edgar is the legitimate son of the Duke of Gloucester. Edmund is the bastard son of the Duke of Gloucester. And we're going to be looking at Edmund's monologue, the bastard son of the Duke of Gloucester. And it kind of comes up in the play a lot where like Edmund is, Edgar, he would be like a good duke, but he's maybe not quite as hard as Edmund. Edmund is like very conniving and very like ambitious and very like Slytherin, you know? He's very like, I see something, I want it, I'm gonna get it. And Edgar is like, well, let's think about this. Let's look. So, and to Edmund, that's like, he's not going to be a good ruler. I deserve to have the dukedom because I'm going to be a better ruler than he is. So actually, and that's how he like justifies everything that he does, right? So, we're going to be looking at Edmund's first big monologue, which is Act 1, Scene 2. And he's talking about being a bastard. So there's a lot of the word bastard in here, if that concerns you. I apologize. Also, there might be some like framing issues and stuff in the next little bit because I didn't have enough time to like get everything framed up correctly, so we'll see. Ooh. Oh, we're actually doing pretty good. Okay. Okay, that looks good. Okay. So, let's dive in. His very first line is, "Thou, nature, art my goddess." So, and this is written in verse. So I usually do my intro to iambic pentameter before we get started into this. So, y'all, also, if you like have any questions for me, or if you're like, Selena, what the heck is going on? Please ask me. I love answering questions about Shakespeare. Also, if it seems like I'm taking big, deep breaths a lot, I am. I was finally able to get my inhaler. Because we hit our deductible and my inhalers are now $10. And so I can finally have them. And so I'm like, I can fill my lungs all the way up. So it's a great feeling. So I've been doing it constantly. Yeah. Okay. So what I usually do when I first start a monologue is I identify iambic pentameter. Now, iambic pentameter is not just the way that Solus speaks to you in Dragon Age Inquisition. It is the poetic meter that Shakespeare wrote in. So an iamb is the foot, and it is a stressed section of a line. So it goes like da 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 da. And you'll notice that it kind of sounds like a heartbeat. So they always say, like, one of the lines that is always used to like teach it is, "Forsooth, I know not why I am so sad." Oh, da 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 da. Can be very calming. So, and then pentameter, 5 is 5 feet in a line. So iambic pentameter is there's 5 iambs in a line of poetry. So we're gonna go through and find the amount of feet in the line, and then yeah. And I can't remember the alternative name. I thought I saw Wicked Snack in here for a second. It's okay. I'll look it up. Okay. So it'll start with, "Thou nature art my goddess to thy law." Great. "My sir, this is are bound, wherefore should I stand in the plague of custom and permit the cure. So this is going to be interesting. The curiosity, that's probably what I'd do, is I'd probably do curiosity of nations to deprive me. Curiosity of nations to deprive me. That's what we'll do. Curiosity of nations. Curiosity of, there we go. Curiosity of nations to deprive me. There we go. And that's what you want to try to do, is you want to do what you can with the pronunciations of the words to get 5. Because he tried to get 5 most of the time. And that doesn't mean you always have to say it like curiosity, ba, da, da. You don't have to pronounce it like that. It's just what we're doing right now is we're not having Shakespeare tell us how to pronounce the words. We're having him, we're trying to get information about what Edmund is saying and how Edmund is feeling. That's all we're doing right now. And this is a huge monologue. So I'm not going to do the whole scanning of it. We're just going to, honestly, we're probably just going to go one page at a time, right? So, curiosity of nations to deprive me, for that I am some 12 or 14 moon. For that I am, wait. For that I am some 12 or 14 moon shines black. For that I am some 12 or 14 moon. I think this one would be a falling ending. I think that's what it is called. Vibrates from learning Shakespeare twice. Hi, Septicy. How are you? Welcome in. Happy Wednesday. Okay, so for that, I am some 12 or 14 moon shines. So I'm just gonna I put a little arrow in right there. I put a little arrow in to indicate that this is a falling ending. Depending on the class you take, you might hear it referred to as a feminine ending. Bit of an outdated term at this time. It's not something that it's whatever. It's annoying, but it's whatever. So, all right, 14 moonshines. Lag of a brother, why bastard? Wherefore base. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay. So, another one. And honestly, I think these are both falling endings, and I'll explain why when we get back to it. So, when my dimensions are as well compact, my mind as generous and my shape as true. There we go. So we're gonna go like generous and my to get the 5. As honest madams as honest madams issue why. Okay. So here we go. As honest madams As honest madams issue, why brand they us with base with This might be another one, and I think that'll be okay. So like with base, nis bastardy, base. So hold on, let me do this next line first. With base, nis bas, dirty base. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, okay. Doing good. Happy Wednesday. If I remember correctly, they were the Scottish play Measure for Measure and a little bit of Othello. So his plays are amazing. Yeah. I mean, I love the Scottish play. I call it Mac Daddy. I've called it Mac Daddy for over a decade now. So, but I love it. Yeah, Scottish play. Measure for Measure is great too. When did you study that? With base, nis bas, star D, base. Okay. As honest madams issue, why brand they us with base. Okay, we might be able to squeeze it with honest madams. He's squeezed madams together before. I think it's going to depend on how we want to say the line. So first, I'm going to squeeze together madams as on this madams issue, why brand they us, there we go, with base, nis bastardy, base, who in the lusty stealth of nature take more composition and fierce quality, more composition and fierce, composition and fierce quality. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. Okay. Then doth within a dull, stale tire. He's like, bro is upset. You can just tell from how he's coming apart. Then doth thinna, doth stale, thin within a dull, 1, 2, 3. It's still tired bed. Go to the creating a whole tribe. 1, 2, 3, 4 of fops got tween asleep and wake. Well then, okay, so that's the first page. I learned them as part of my A-levels and GCSEs for English Lit, hence why I was excited. Oh, fun. A-levels. What is that? I think that's, it sounds European. But is that like university level? But I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I'm really glad that you liked it. And you'll probably know more than me. So if you have any questions or anything you want to clarify, please let me know. But this was good. I think this was a good start and a good first page. And there's a lot to do and unpack here. So this is, we're in a good spot. This is an excellent monologue, I think, for both men and women to do. That's another thing that's also really great about Shakespeare is that nowadays we don't have to be confined by these male monologues and female monologues. That kind of binary just doesn't exist anymore. And if I firmly believe that if an auditor says to you, first of all, if they make an assumption about you and you haven't like introduced yourself with like specific pronouns, yikes. And then second, if they say to you, well, that's a male monologue or that's a female monologue when you've identified as the other gender, I don't know if that's somebody or if that's like a company that you really want to be working with because yikes. Hi, Nolly. How are you? So next, now that we've done this is, I like to switch colors and do my stresses. Now this is just what the poetic stress is telling us, right? So this isn't how we have to stress anything. This is literally just what the poetry is telling us. Just what the rules are telling us. After this step, this is when the acting comes in, right? So, and then honestly, I think as we go into the next pages, it might be cool to kind of dive in without necessarily going through each of these detailed steps. It might be cool to like go through it while using them and keeping them in mind, but looking at the monologue in a slightly different light. So, okay, we go, thou nature art my goddess to thy law, my services are bound, wherefore should I stand in the plague of custom and permit the curiosity of nations to deprive me, for that I am some 12 or 14 moon shines, lag of a brother, why bastard, wherefore base. Good. Oh, I'm glad to hear you're good, Nelly. Thanks for popping in. I'm always so excited when people come to the Shakespeare streams. When my dimensions are as well compact, my mind as generous, and my shape as true as honest madams issue, why brand they us with baseness, bastardy, base. Hi, DNC. How you doing? Who in the lusty stealth of nature take more composition and fierce quality than doth within a dull, stale, tired bed, go to the creating a whole tribe of fox.
Incoming transmission.
Hi, Jory. How are you? Got tween asleep and wake well then. So, okay, we've done that. And this is where like I said, this is where the acting comes in, right? Shakespeare stream! Yes, we're doing it. Doing good. Don't know anything about Shakespeare, but I always like listening to people talk about it. Aw. Well, I'm glad you like listening to me talk about it. I'm always, any chance I get. Oh,
beautiful.
Hi, Pandora. Any chance I get to absolutely geek out about Shakespeare, I'm stoked. And I love this monologue. And any Shakespeare actor, be they he, she, they, like any gender, any identifying, no matter what, if they like Shakespeare, they want to perform this monologue. Like, this monologue is absolutely incredible. There is just so much to chew on. There's so much flavor. There's so much. It's incredible. Sorry, bad working day, full lurking and running for sure. Gonna rewatch the VOD. Love you. Aw, thanks, Pandora. I appreciate the lurk. I hope work goes okay for you. Love hearing people talk about hyperfixations and long-term fandom love. Love it! Well, I'm a long-term fandom lover of Shakespeare. But yeah, there's just so much to chew on in here. And there's a phrase, I think I've said it on stream before, but an actor's favorite thing is loss. An actor's favorite thing is to lose. Love to lose. Because there's just so much more to do, you know? Every scene that you see, be it on television, in film, on stage, anything, if you're watching it, there has to be some kind of conflict, you know? If there's two characters in a room and one of them wants to leave the room, this is a very basic example, but if one of them wants to leave the room, the other one has to want them to stay, or has to need them to stay for some reason. And that reason had better be a good one, and it probably should be life or death, because otherwise, why are we watching? Why are we watching this scene? Why are we watching? Yeah, I can see all the emotion for the audience is lost. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the reason, just for context of a little bit of context in something that I know that we're all familiar with, you know, the Baldur's Gate characters, right? Will lost his family and his home. Astarion lost his freedom. Shadowheart lost her family and her memories. Lae'zel loses her faith and her entire belief system. Karlach lost her freedom and her agency and her heart and her home and all her friends. Gale lost the love of his life and lost his life's work, and you know, so just the amount of things to chew on. And then there's conflict right immediately at the beginning. There's something that you have to solve, and there's so many things standing in your way. So yeah, so for Edmund, the conflict is he's a bastard. And back then, that was a really bad thing to be. Because now we can, you know, it's like, it's fine. It truly is. It has no bearing on who you are as a person, on what you can do, on, you know, who, if anything, like if it says anything at all, which it probably shouldn't, but if it says anything at all, it says something about your parent. But it said a lot about the kid back then, especially if the kid had a royal parent, which Edmund does. His father's Duke of Gloucester. And he wants to be Duke because he thinks that he would do a much better job. And also, being Duke means he would no longer be a bastard. And everything that people said about him when he was growing up would no longer be true anymore. So, Oh, it's the stage before university. What play is this an excerpt from, if you don't mind me asking? Oh, not at all. This is King Lear. This is King Lear. I should probably put that in the stream title. Dramatic Sons. Edmund Monologue. Act 1, Scene 2, King Lear. There we go. Now this is also what we call it's a monologue, sure, but it's also what we call a soliloquy, where he is specifically talking to the audience. Shakespeare does that a lot, where characters are not talking to another character, but they actually are talking to the audience. Shakespeare involves the audience a lot in his plays. So much so that a lot of productions, whether or not soliloquies are a big part of them, like Hamlet has a million soliloquies, but a lot of productions of any Shakespeare play will treat the audience like another character in the show. So if there's like an aside, these things called an aside, where the character is like saying something that the other characters on stage aren't meant to hear, they say it to the audience. It's literally breaking the fourth wall, like in a television show, where you're like, okay, you know what I mean? So, yeah. So let's just read a little bit of what he's saying with some of these emphases. And I have a new color out to kind of help us. So he's saying, "Thou, nature, art my goddess. To thy law, my services are bound. Wherefore should I stand in the plague of custom and permit the curiosity of nations to deprive me? For that I am some 12 or 14 moonshines lag of a brother? Why bastard? Wherefore base? When my dimensions are as well compact, my mind as generous, and my shape as true, as honest madam's issue." So he's basically asking, why am I being called different? Why am I different? Everything about me is essentially the same. And so he's saying, I'm not gonna adhere to the laws of men because this bullshit is ridiculous. I need it to be bound to the laws of nature instead. And then wherefore, if we learn from Romeo, like we learned from Romeo and Juliet, wherefore means why. Instead, it just means why. So, why should I stand in the plague of custom and permit the curiosity of nations to deprive me? And so this is interesting. For that I am 12 or 14 moonshines lag of a brother. So moonshines, this is interesting. I'm curious about this definition of moonshine. So this is where Shakespeare's words come in. I freaking love this book. Okay, so we're gonna go to M. And we do have an ad break coming up, and I will stop for the ad break. Moonshine. So it's saying 12 or 14 moonshines lag of a brother. Younger than months. Moonshines, months. That's what I thought. So 12 or 14 months younger than a brother. So not only is he a bastard, but he's also younger. So 12 or 14 moonshines the lag of a brother. So it was like a year and change younger than him. We have a wonderful rest of the stream. All right, it's up to see. Thanks so much for hanging out. He says, why bastard? Wherefore base? And so Shakespeare's probably doing that just to like fill the meter, you know. Why bastard? Wherefore base? When my dimensions are as well compact, my mind is generous, and my shape as true. So he's probably saying like, I'm just as smart. I'm just as strong. As oddest madam's issue. So my mom is just as good as his mom. Why brand, whoops. Gosh darn it, okay. Why brand they us with base? And this is where he's like, Shakespeare, when he is repeating stuff, okay, the ad is coming up, so we'll come back to this. We'll pause the Shakespeare stuff, but we shall come back to this soon. So I'll be right back after the break. All right, BRB.